My heart was an unmarked grave. My hopes burned to ashes and then cast away. No incense burning for me in my strife. Just some sad wilted flowers on the grave of my wife. But then you were there and you made me feel clean. Through the rotten decay, once more I can dream. A candle is burning once more, and it's true. I was 6 feet under, but now I'm head over heels for you. Alas, sweet prince, you are too beautiful for this world. Pour one out for him, boys. Gone, the smelly gravekeeper dwarf is no more. How did this sorry state of affairs come to be? Well, he died quite quickly, I'll be honest with you. Kind of my fault for starting the session with just 3 hit points. If you recall, at the end of the last session, we left things off. We just entered this room. There was a pit in the room, and there was like a sound coming from inside the pit. I think maybe we should have short rested there. We didn't. So inside the pit, there was this man. His name was Halith. He told us he was a Prince of Joaquin, and that he was a member of this group of musicians that were quite famous in the local town. And apparently they'd had a big fight together, and they'd thrown him into the pit where he had been stuck ever since. And he was determined to get out of the pit, and he wanted to get revenge on the rest of his players, and he needed our help to get out. And so after a little bit of thinking about it, we decided to get him out. We'd cast Zone of Truth, so we realized he was telling the truth. He didn't mean us any harm. So we got him out. I did, however, with my gravekeeperly intuition, I realized that he was definitely undead. There was an undead feel to the guy. To be fair, I was actually rolling really well for once. And I think I even got a nat 20 for this perception check. So I was able to realize, hang on a second, this guy is definitely not all there with the living. So what I did is I cast Speak with Animals, because I didn't know what languages this guy spoke. And I was like, right, I need to get a message to the rest of the party and tell them to like watch out, this guy is dead. And so I cast Speaks with Animals on the 1d6 plus 2 woodland critters that follow Snow White around at all times. And I told her, her name's actually Boleen, by the way. So I'll call her Boleen from now on. They follow Boleen around. And I cast Speak with Animals, and I was like, look, I don't trust you, but you need to get the message to your mistress in whatever way you can, and just tell her that that guy there is dead. That is a dead man. Okay? And so the woodland critters pass on the message, being like, yeah, he's making threats. He's going to kill him. Yeah, he's saying he's a dead man. And Boleen looks over, and I'm like, she's like, oh goodness me, oh, he's gonna kill him. Why is this? She's not the smartest cookie in the pot. So there we go. That was that. So we were following this guy Halith, and he led us through a secret door into another room, where there was a flight of stairs downstairs to the next floor of the dungeon. Huzzah! Hooray! But just as we were about to go this way, suddenly some bugbears came into the room. Bugbears who, if you recall, on this floor of the dungeon, they are all housing intellect devourers. So that's fun. So of course, I've got my 3 hit points. I rolled really well on my initiative roll. I got like 19 or something, but the bugbears got 20. And they took a javelin and they chucked it straight at me. And despite the fact that it only did 4 damage, I had 3 hit points. And so down I went. The rest of the fight was happening. They kind of roped Halith in to help because otherwise there's only 2 of them. So they were kind of struggling a little bit, and you know, they're fighting against intellect devourers as well, so it's pretty tough. Meanwhile, I'm on the ground, and I told the DM to roll death saves for me and don't tell me what they are. And so he was rolling for me. And well, in a nutshell, the first was a fail, the second was a success, and the third, this sounds a little bit familiar, the third was a natural 1. And so Gorn dies, and the way I did it was that immediately the swarm of flies that is always around him just immediately like lands on him, like just basically lays a load of like maggots on him and then just disperses, and just his body just rots down to goo and he's gone. At this point, the rest of the party were like, okay, we need to get out of here. They disengaged, they ran, they had just enough time to grab Gorn's shovel, and they fled the scene down to the next level. So that was all she wrote for Gorn, and I was a bit sad about that. But them's the breaks sometimes. So that means on the next level, we had a chance to see my backup character, who was all ready to go. And she was, of course, Yvette, that I mentioned before. I've been through Waterdeep Dragon Heist with her, so I just told the party, like, if you're from Waterdeep, you've probably heard of, you know, something that happened recently where the owner of a tavern in the city found this stone that unlocked the vault and managed to get all of this money, and they gave it away to the poor because that's what we did in our campaign. And so they were like, oh, okay, cool, they heard about this. Yvette, for her part, she is kind of very standoffish French person. She's been through the ringer as a character. Like, she was captured and tortured for quite a long time. She's missing 1 eye, she's missing 1 hand. The way when I built her is I was thinking she used to be a really, really, really good high-level fighter, but she was captured, she was tortured, and because she's lost 1 of her eyes and her hands, she basically had to kind of relearn how to fight from scratch with her offhand, a bit like Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones. And so that's why she kind of started from level 1. I've gone from having a strength-based ranger to now having a dex-based fighter. I like having weird builds, what can I say? And it's fun to have inbuilt disadvantages. So like every perception roll is with disadvantage because of her 1 eye. She can't carry a shield because she only has 1 hand. So things like this I quite like working around. It's fun. So she's a battle master. She's terrified of magic and magic casters because they're the ones who captured her and did this to her, and so she has a bit of PTSD from her time in captivity. So that's her, and basically she met the party straight away. She was standing next to a fountain, and she said, look, there's some weird magic stuff up ahead. I don't really want to face it on my own, so I've been waiting for another group to come along. And so let's go and explore it. But first, they said, well, let's go to this goblin market, which is nearby. There's a market for goblins. Let's go and have a look and see what they got for sale. So they went there and they learned all about the fact that the market was being led by... I forget the guy's name now. But he was very, very tall. He was a tall goblin, surprisingly tall goblin, and he'd been in charge for quite a long time. And the rumor was that he had someone in captivity, that he had a prisoner. Now, my character, of course, used to be a prisoner, so in general, doesn't really like people being in captivity, so that would be something that would definitely set off an alarm bell for her. And so we spent a little bit of time kind of looking around in this marketplace. both shopping and also just trying to get a lay of the land and figure out what the deal is, why these goblins are here, and why they've set up shop. Are they actually affiliated with Xanathar's guild, who are also in the dungeon here? Just what's the deal in general, really. And our Goliath barbarian, who is very stupid, and he's just someone who just like, he never plays things cautiously. So whereas I'd be like, okay, I'm going to be stealthy, I'm not going to touch this thing with my hand, I'm not going to push this, I'm not going to do this, he'll just be like immediately like, yeah, I touch it, I pick this up, I interact with this object, he doesn't care. So that's how he plays things. And in his case, he wanted some healing potions, and he wanted to pay 20 gold pieces for the healing potions. And they said to him, no, sorry, these healing potions are 65 gold pieces. There's a markup because we're deep underground, it's hard to get them. 65 gold pieces for a healing potion. He said, nope, I want to pay 20. He failed his persuasion roll. He was rolling terribly. He failed every roll. They were like, okay, it's now like 80 gold pieces. Like, no, we're not going any higher. But he caused enough of a ruckus that he was able to get the leader of the goblins to kind of poke his head out and try and find out what's going on. And Yvette used this opportunity to sneaky, stealthily past him into his offices, where he had chained up this prisoner, who it turned out to be a dwarf, who was completely shaved. Oh, the shame of it. He'd been completely shaved. And he was one of the musicians that our friend Halith was trying to get to. I forgot to mention what happened with Halith, didn't I? Yeah. So he died on the floor above. So not only did Gorn die, but Halith was also completely mind wiped. The intellect devourer wiped his mind, and so we had to abandon him there with him kind of drooling out the corner of his mouth. He was gone. So so anyway, Halith was gone. I think he would have been quite useful, but never mind, he's gone. So and Yvette wasn't there at the time, so she knew nothing about him or his group. So, it's a completely new encounter as far as she's concerned. She's like, oh yeah, cool, you're a musician from above, I've heard of you, we had you in our tavern one time. So she helps the guy to escape. He is really angry, he gets his equipment, he just goes out and he immediately just starts killing goblins. And at this point, the Goliath barbarian, he's just got angry to the point where he's like, well, look, you're going to give me these healing potions for 20 gold pieces or I'm just going to kill everyone. And so basically, this very nice goblin market, where previously I think it was just here where we could just buy things and sell things as we needed to. It's a very useful thing to have in a game. No, we're now having a full-on fight with every single goblin in this place. So that was fun. So on the fly, trying to remember how a battle master works was interesting. But we were getting through that, and eventually, I should mention. Sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place. This leader of the goblins, this guy who's very tall, is actually a human, which is a bit weird. But he's wearing a very, very nice hat, and so during the fight, the barbarian was focusing most of his turns on just trying to get the hat off this goblin's head, human's head. As soon as he managed to do so, he reverted back into being a goblin, because it turns out it's a magical hat. And at that moment, everyone was just like, oh my gosh, he's a goblin again, he's tiny. Why is he leading us again? And so that kind of diffused the situation. There was a bit of a changing of the guard. We put someone else in charge of the market, and we managed to get by with only, some casualties. I think the market is still operational, despite the fact we killed probably about half of everyone down there. We're being a bit murder hobo-y here, But there we go. So after this, we now have healing potions at a very good price. We managed to get them for those. He was like, no, 21 gold pieces. We're like, fine. So we got them for 21 gold pieces each. We got like 6 of them. And we've got this hat that if you attune to it, it turns you into a moderately attractive human, which is very nice. The Goliath attuned to that. He now looks like Mr. Average Human Man, and he's walking around with us as well now. So there we go. That's where we ended up things there. And so then past that point, we were then like, right, well, let's actually now go and explore. So we went into first of all, we went into this weird like laboratory area where there was like a mechanized version of the Mad Mage himself, just randomly mixing potions together, but not really to any purpose, just kind of just randomly mixing things. Just, you know, pick up water, put in flask, now pick up flask, put in this flask. It was pointless what he was doing. And he was like an automaton of some sort, like a, you know, scarecrow building, working around like this. And so we destroyed him, because, you know, leave no stone unturned. We went a bit further. We found a room. I'm not going to do a play-by-play of every single room. I'll just do the exciting ones. So we found a room which had music coming from it, and there was like some sort of like harpsichord that was playing by itself, and there was some music notation on the wall. First of all, our Goliath friend, because this is the sort of person he is, he just goes up to the harpsichord and just starts hitting the keys randomly, and immediately he gets like 22 points of necrotic damage, and all of the flesh from his hands disappears. So he now has skeleton hands. They function just fine, but they're now skeletal hands, which is a bit weird. But then we do have a bard in our party, and so she actually did play the musical notation, and like a secret hatch opened up, and inside there was a spell scroll, and the spell scroll was for Raise Dead. Very useful spell scroll to have. At which point, everyone just kind of looks at each other and they're like, we could bring back Gorn. And I'm like, yeah, you can if you want. Do you want to? And so they said, yeah, let's do that. And so everyone went back to the floor above. They found Gorn's decomposing body, and obviously they had to roll for it, but our bard rolled like a 16, and that was more than enough. The spell went off, and Gorn, you beautiful dwarven man, he came back from the dead. Yes, he's going to have some major penalties now against him, like -4 on all attack rolls and saves and ability checks for the next 4 days. It sucks being raised from the dead, but man, he's back, which is a really weird thing to think. So yeah, temporarily I had my backup character, but she's going to go off. She's like, no, this is too much magic stuff for me. I'm out of here. And so the way we played things is that Gorn, when he was dead, he basically was a bit like in Beetlejuice. He was in kind of a waiting room, and he had the sense that it wasn't his time. The dwarven god of Helenvar, I think his name is, not just the dwarven god of dead, but dwarven god of dying at the right time. And there was the sense that it wasn't the right time for him, and that's why he was in this waiting room. And he comes back to life, half rotten. He's like coughing up maggots, and his like skin is like blackened with necrosis, you know. And he's just like, "Whoa, what's happening?" Oh. And he looks up and he sees this beautiful snow white Bolene looking down over him, and he realizes, my God, you saved my life. You brought me back from the dead. And from this moment, he is now basically in love with Bolene. And he composed a little like love song for her. The love song being the one that you heard at the beginning of this video. Not made with ChatGPT, by the way. I made that myself. Yeah, because screw AI-driven things. Except the artwork, I can't do that myself. But anyway, yeah. So he's in love with Bolene now, and then the party continued with the three of them. So we didn't really get very far in this session. After this, we ended up in another room, and the place that we left things, it was some sort of weird kitchen. And once again, whereas I'm like stealthing through very carefully because I've just come back from the dead and I'm not, had like 1 hit point. We had to have a short rest. I had to roll all of my hit dice to get to a manageable level. We go into this like kitchen area, and the Goliath barbarian is just like, I hit all the pots and pans randomly, and then a spectre appears. Great, and that's where we left things. Thanks, man, that's really helpful. So we're gonna start next session with a fight, and probably I'm gonna die again. But regardless, for now, I am back with the party, and it's a really, really nice feeling, and it was a very very good from a roleplay perspective as well now, because of course I have been to the death, to the grave, and I've come back again. It's very thematic for my character. The undead are an abomination, but I'm not technically undead. I've been kind of revivified, essentially. It's a very murky middle ground, but it does give the perfect opportunity that then the next time I level up, I can then multi-class either into Grave Cleric or Druid of Spores. Both of those ways work, basically. It's very nice. So, and that's good because Ranger at level 7 doesn't really get very much. Swarm Keeper, I get a flying speed of 10 feet. No, thank you. I'd much rather have Cleric and Druid spells, thank you. That would be much better. So anyway, that's what's happening. Very nicely wrapped session, I would say. From beginning to end, starting with the death of Gorn and ending with his resuscitation, the little sub-story with this group of singers. We rescued one of him, and then we found his friend who was captured. There were lots of little like subplots going on, which was very, very nice. It was a nice little self-contained episode, shall we say. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here, because of course, in the grand scheme of things, we didn't really go that far in the dungeon. It was maybe like 3 or 4 rooms we went through. So needs to pick up the pace a little bit, I think. But yeah, it's really good where we've got to so far. I'm very excited to see what happens next. So anyway, that is everything for session 5 of Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Looking forward to session 6. Ciao.